also started studying the folk poetry of my country. There we have huge numbers, hundreds of thousands of texts of folk poetry. But also melodies, of course, go with it. I had a wonderful experience recently. The most popular rock group in Latvia called Brainstorm had a huge concert in an open-air sort of stadium affair. And they had 45,000 people in attendance, and they invited me to sing a song with them from an album we just put out, a CD of Vaira's songs.
Fantastic. Hon berättar att hon studerade effekterna på hjärnan när det gällde droger. Men hon studerade också som professor den folkloristiska traditionen, framförallt texterna. Och när hon sen blev president så har det här varit någonting som hon har försökt lyfta fram. Hon blev också inbjuden till den stora kända rockgruppen Brainstorm i Lettland. Och där fick hon vara med, inbjuden på scenen och sjunga. Och så kom det ut en CD med Vairas sånger. Can you sing now for us?
Well, it's a bit difficult, you know.
But you are a good singer, you have to be.
Well, I'm not a singing, you know, like an operatic voice or not a solo voice. I wanted to show with my CD that the folk song tradition is one of participation. Not watching singers on the stage, but everybody singing along. With good voices, not so good voices, medium voices. It's folk singing, and folk means you and me and everybody. We should all be singing. In our shower, in our car, whatever, you know.
Jag frågade om hon kunde sjunga, men hon passade lite där och sa att hon sjunger hellre i grupp. Hon tycker alla ska sjunga tillsammans. It's a treasure sometimes, the texts of the folklore songs.
Indeed.
What can we learn from the text from your countries? What does it tell us?
A great deal, a lot of things. I spent much of my life as a researcher working on that. A book was published in France last year, in French, which I called The Logic of Poetry. And I found that these songs, made up of quatrains, like verses, are very complex intellectually, phonetically, grammatically. The simple people of the countryside were not stupid, you see, and they were also artistically gifted. They didn't have many means of expression, but they put a lot of talent into these. And these are immortal like any immortal poetry, and there's always something that we can find that relates to our hearts and to our minds.
Hon säger att man kan hitta väldigt mycket i de folkloristiska texterna, dramaturgiskt, intellektuellt och väldigt mycket som berättar om ett folk. Så att folk var betydligt mer smarta än vad man kan tro när de skrev de här texterna. Was it also a freedom of speech hidden in these folklore songs during the occupation of the Soviet Union?
The survival role of these songs was in earlier centuries when Latvians didn't have their independence. During the Soviet occupation, the role was taken over by modern poets. And much as in fact happened in Soviet Russia, it was the same thing. Poets became more famous than popular music stars or rock stars, you see. Poets were able to express things symbolically that the censorship could not catch, they could not stop. You could read the symbols in different ways, and you could read between the lives. And they were the big idols of the people for many decades.
Hon berättar att under den sovjetiska ockupationen, precis som i Sovjet, att då blev de stora nationella poeterna, de moderna poeterna, det var de som blev hjältar. De blev större än musiker, artister. Därför att mellan raderna så kunde de gömma ett budskap om frihet som politikerna inte kunde komma åt. Eller även om de kunde avslöja det så var det svårt att komma åt eftersom det var stor konst. What about literature today in Latvia? There are great writers, of course. Is there anybody you could recommend?
We have two lady writers who are here present at the book fair, who have been in recent years getting more and more popular and successful and getting their books translated in many languages. One is Laima Muktapavela, and she has a book published now in Swedish about, I don't know what it sounds like in Swedish, it's about champignon. You see, it's this business about picking mushrooms in Ireland from Latvian emigres. And the other
novel?
It's a novel. And then there's another novel by Nora Iksten. Nora Iksten is a very talented woman writer writer who writes wonderful biographies, but also novels.
Hon lyfter fram 2 speciella kvinnliga författare som finns här på mässan. En som jag har svårt att uttala. You have to pronounce that first writer again. The one with the mushroom.
Muktu-Pavel.
Okay. Det var namnet på författaren som skriver en roman som bland annat handlar om svampplockning, svampjakt, men det är också en roman förstås. Och sen lyfter hon fram en annan ung, framförallt väldigt skicklig författare när det gäller biografier.
Nora Ikstena.
Thank you very much. You see, they're not familiar with us yet, but they are represented here.
And what I'd like to single out is that in a program that Latvia is presenting here in Focus, a lot of translation from Latvian to Swedish has been done by Juris Kronbergs, the poet Juris Kronbergs, who is a poet in Swedish. He is a poet in Latvian, and he has been an extraordinary bridge between the literatures of the 2 countries, because most of what is appeared in Sweden, both poetry and prose, translated from the Latvian, is the work of this extraordinary talented man who born and grown up in Sweden and who knows both cultures equally well.
Det har gjorts fina översättningar från båda språken som är som att bygga broar mellan våra länder. Och mycket av det här finns att se och köpa och titta på här på mässan. Thank you so much for visiting me in my program.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you and good luck with what you're doing here in the
Thank
book
you
fair.
very much.
Ja, vi ska se, det finns nu tror jag möjlighet att se lite bilder härifrån mässan.